How's it
Yeah,
go?
what's up, man? What's up?
Hey,
I'm
man.
the we out here. I'm just I had something on my heart this week.
It was really
I
on
was
my
like,
heart.
it
And
was
I
on
had
my
to get it
heart.
out.
I had to get it off, right? I was like, no one needs everyone to know what's on his mind
Hey,
right now,
look at
right?
that.
So, yeah, you see what I did there?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I actually wanted to talk about the Kendrick interview in Harper's Bazaar a little bit. I did watch. Are you laughing at me because of that text from earlier today? And that's why.
Oh, yeah, that. And then also just because Harper's Bazaar is just a funny, like,
Just a
it's
funny
just a
name.
funny name, you know? Like,
And then we did also Absol did a little interview with DJ Head, which I really enjoyed. So
yeah.
um, talk about that a little bit. But the um, I like to. I'm glad I set with this one. Like I'm glad I'm not just reacting to that interview like right away
Right.
because I just it was crazy when that interview dropped to see all the discourse on either side around it, right?
Mhm.
And for first things first, I don't like reading interviews. It reads too much like a script,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I don't actually care for reading interviews, but I read this one obviously because it was Kendrick. And then I had to go back and digest it. So I kind of read it again because it was a lengthy little piece. And I was like, so I'm going to go and actually read this and kind of digest it. But as I'm watching the
Yeah.
discourse throughout the week, I started getting aggravated because I'm like, you had people who had the correct response, which was, yeah, it was a good interview. Hey, Harper's Bazaar, that's kind of big, man. You know what I mean? They don't be normally putting black men in their fucking magazine. So
Right.
shout out to Kendrick for getting it done. And I know the question that everybody harped on as well was how he answered the, what does not like us mean to you
Yeah.
question. Um, which I mean, for me was a lob. Like I'm like, okay, she was lobbing this up right quick. All he got to do is just
Softball
make.
pit, just a little.
Hey, she threw a beach ball out there. All you got to do is hit this
Yeah.
thing as a home run, right?
Boom.
And again, the correct response was, okay, he said what he said, and that was he's still clearly kind of shot at whoever is not on his side, right? Like, so that was a shot at some folks, we'll say.
Right.
um but there were a few things that kind of like made me like angry and was on the other side.
Yeah.
One is feeling like the answer to the not like us question was like this esoteric, like I'm holier than thou answer. And I was like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? Like
Right.
that was weird to me. And I don't know if you saw any of those responses, but I was listening to the discourse around that and I'm like, huh? What?
Yeah.
Like it was
No,
a
I did.
softball
Yeah.
question and it was a shot as well. So what are you talking about?
Right, right. No, it was definitely like I did see this discourse about it, and I did, the initial discourse. I think I did see a lot of hate
There's a
towards
lot
the
of hate towards it.
just the way the interview was presented, and then the answer. Of course, everyone was flocking over that answer to that question, but it was so rooted in uh it's not like he didn't answer it the way he presented it to the world, right? Of course it's about Drake, but again, he literally states it though throughout the whole song. He's like, this is what I stand for, this is the line that I'm drawing here. You're either over here or you're over there.
Hmm.
Right, and I'm calling this shit out. So I don't know what else you wanted, like, you know what I mean? Like, you didn't have to have this interview to know what he was talking about in that song. So what what are we doing?
Yeah. And I felt like when it came to the discourse around that particular question, because he was asked a lot of questions and that was the only one people wanted to talk about really. And then him talking about, some more emotional stuff that some stuff got toxic on. And, we'll get to that in just a second because I got a list of things that kind of made me angry about this shit.
Yeah.
But as it relates to that question specifically, the discourse was around it seems like people wanted him to rehash um, the beef, obviously. And I'm
Right.
like, he's clearly told us, he dropped a track to tell us he's moved on from that. Like, this is not
Yeah.
something he's going to be talking about. This is not something he's going to keep going back to. Like,
Yeah.
that was done. I did that. It's time to move on to the next thing he's trying to accomplish,
Right.
whatever that is, cleaning
Hmm.
up the industry or whatever that is.
Hmm.
So I just kind of was like, I don't understand why everybody's upset with how he answered this question. It's not, and I mean, and hey, if y'all want to fry me up in the comments and I'll be the bail bondsman. I don't give a fuck, right? Like what I'm saying is when I read the interview multiple times, and this was not something that I would have been inclined to care about anyway, right?
Yeah.
This you just felt like okay, Kendrick did an interview. I wasn't expecting anything like crazy out of it anyway.
Right.
Um, But when I look back and I reread it and I digested it, I'm just like, okay, so that's what he had to say about it. Like either you have morals and you have the attributes that Kendrick says, or you don't, and that's what he means when he says not like us. Either you're kind of the kind of man he is, or you're not. And if you're not, then you're not like us, right? Like that's the thing. So I don't know why we went to this weird place where Kendrick was not being honest or whatever it was. I felt like everybody wanted some more mess.
Well, it just didn't make sense because it's like, well, I told you on the song that what I think about this dude specifically, right?
Right. And his
Right.
crew and everybody he
But
res with.
also, it doesn't take like a scholar to realize that like he was also making an example out of Drake, right?
Apparently it
Drake
does.
also represented an idea,
Mhm.
right? That Kendrick was also combating against. And again, for people that consume Kendrick's music, this isn't something that he's not done before. You know, in terms of having multi-layered songs with it's very direct, right? But also again, we in the discourse that we had over the whole song, over the whole beef, right? It was about addressing not only him, but putting the bow on top about how I
Yeah.
feel about this
I hate the way that you
idea in
walk, the way
general.
that you talk, the way that you dress. Yeah.
Everything. There's
The whole night.
so many. Yeah. So.
Yeah. The other thing that I did not like about it was this idea. This will be a second thing. I got three things. Um, is this idea that he didn't go to a black publication or outlet to do this.
Hmm.
Um, so as I'm listening to this discourse, right, I actually do what New Yorkers claim no one else does. When did the knowledge?
Did the knowledge.
I did the knowledge. The editor of Harper's Bazaar is a black woman. She's the first
Okay.
black woman editor in some time there. She's been the editor for 2020. The spreads have been more inclusive since she's been the editor in chief.
Okay.
Um, the writer who did the introduction to the piece, to the interview, she was a
Hmm.
black woman as well.
Okay.
Okay, the photographer is Belgian. The fashion designer, I think, is a Latin dude. Then SZA's obviously black. So this is a very diverse
Yeah.
spread that he went to, and this was a fashion magazine.
Hmm.
Um, so I guess Pharrell wasn't available. You know what I'm saying? You like I don't know how to make this much blacker, but um, I didn't I didn't like the
Right.
idea that the first thing he should have done was go find some black publication, because if he did anything over here on the West Coast and the interview wasn't hard hitting enough, then everybody west of Vegas would have been like that was a home game,
Right.
right? So it didn't matter what he did over here on the West Coast. If we didn't give the questions they wanted answers to, then he did a home game, and this interview's bullshit.
Hey, but I mean, they're already giving him shit anyway, so maybe it wouldn't really have mattered.
It,
Jeez.
that to
You
my
know?
point, right? So if I do it over here and y'all gonna give me shit, I'm gonna go do it in Harper's Bazaar,
Right.
you know. And that's kind of actually a big deal for him and them, right? And we got to stop thinking about Kendrick as just an artist. This dude is kind of now a corporate entity, And
He's a
so
brand. Yeah.
he's a huge brand, and so he could make someone's career. Like he could like launch some podcaster, I don't know, maybe some Odyssey podcast. He could launch them off into the
Yeah.
stratosphere, right? Or he could do the thing he's trying to do right now, which is roll out an album and play the Super Bowl. So he's got to go to safer spaces, right? And in a world where Complex is calling academics the number one hip hop media personality, right? Then we have
Yeah.
to admit that hip hop journalism is in a very bad spot
Yeah.
because Joe Budden would have been considered a home game because his affiliation to TDE or connection to TDE, I should say. Um, so that's how he landed Dochi, right? Because him and Top have a relationship. Um, you know what I mean? Elliot Wilson and DJ Head do a podcast, so that would have been considered a home game, right? Like
Yeah.
DJ Head is on his crew, like you know what I mean? Like there's no win here by
No.
coming and doing the home game interview.
No. What's he gonna go do an Angie Martinez interview? You
Yeah,
know what I
you
mean?
know what
Like,
I
what are
mean.
we
He's gonna go
talking
do
about?
Breakfast Club. He's not doing Charlemagne, right? Like that's not. It's not
He
gonna
gonna go
happen.
do Big Boy? He can't do Big Boy. You know what I mean? Like, it's just what are we
Yeah,
talking about? What are we
yeah.
talking about?
And maybe he might do Big Boy, but he doesn't need to do Big Boy for this. Maybe he
Well, and
might go in the
also,
future to do Big Boy when he's done making music.
no, yeah, exactly. I mean, the point you just made, we can't just consider Kendrick an artist. We need to consider him as a brand, as an entity, bigger than just him, right? That's what he's representing. So he's choosing how he wants to display and portray that brand, especially leading up to the Super Bowl, right? So again, we get so fixated on everything in relation to Drake, but Kendrick's doing stuff in relation to himself and building up
Right.
this thing for himself and for the people around him, right? And I think that's kind of the difference at this point in time, right? We're well past the beef now. We're about to be into the new year. We're about to be into a year since the beef. You know,
Yeah.
very it'll come up
Since the
quicker than
beef
we think.
officially started, right? Like
Right, right,
because it
right,
officially started with a person apparently with a first person shooter. I
right.
want to double click on something you just said right now,
Yeah,
right? This notion that Kendrick needs to move in context of this beef and in context of Drake, right? And that's another thing that I loved about going to Harper's Bazaar. It has nothing to do with anybody who had any discourse around this beef and
yeah,
him pointing out to you, like, I don't need to be down in this world in order to make it. This PG Lang is taking off. This dude is ascending to Jay-Z status, right? Not at Jay-Z status. So before you come for me in the comments, I'm not calling him like, Jay-Z or anything like that just yet.
yeah,
But he's ascending there, right? And we'll see
right,
where everything takes him. And so I think people are, especially on that Drake side, are tripping out because they think everything Kendrick does needs to be in the context of him being part of the big two and beefing with Drake. And Kendrick's like, I don't have to do shit associated with any of that. And I
hmm
don't have to talk about it ever again if I don't want to. So I
right,
can avoid all the publications and all the outlets that would force me into talking about this shit.
right,
You know, I don't think we talk about that enough. Flip
yeah,
side, it seems like this side needs this shit to keep going in order to maintain, which is why I've been saying just go away, let the shit blow over,
right,
soft launch, and then you'll be good. Like everything's gonna be good. Everybody gonna go back to listening to Drake. This isn't gonna be a problem.
hmm
So the third thing was the disrespect and the toxicity around one just being in Harper's Bazaar, which is a fashion magazine that's primarily um, read and looked at by women.
yeah,
Being interviewed by a black woman was a more softer interview, so there was a more emotional talk, and there was a lot of toxicity around. I hate the term toxic masculinity because then we act like femininity can't also be toxic. So I'm just going to say toxicity,
hmm
right? There was a lot of toxicity around Kendrick talking about, I'm going to use the term feminine side. I don't remember if he actually said that in the interview or not, but being getting more vulnerable, in touch with his feminine side and stuff like that. There's a lot of toxic shit around that, and it made me really angry. I was like, that little thing where you go to a baby's chin and you go like, that's your feminine side, bro. Like you got everybody got it in them. Right, like you got it in.
Oh
we
my god.
we call it we call it that, but that's a bad name for it now in 2024. What we're talking about is you just having emotions and feelings.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, I mean, I'm not surprised by the bashing of being in touch with your emotions because I mean, I feel like they did that to him after Miss Morale,
Yeah,
right?
for
I
sure.
think that was a lot of the discourse outside of that, and um, I don't know. Like, we just gotta grow the fuck up. I don't know what we're talking about. Like, therapy's not this like extraordinary, like this crazy thing. Like, it's not this like we don't have access to it one way or another, man. I think it's on an app now.
You
You
can
know,
get it wherever you
I'm
can
not
get it
gonna say
wherever
no
you
names because we not sponsored, but
No, but if you want to sponsor us, we very happy to say
email
some
down
names.
below.
But it's in your
Uh,
pocket for sure.
contact info below. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's in your pocket. You know, it's in your pocket right next to your music app. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
that
yeah,
easy.
yeah.
But I guess all I'm trying to say is, again, the certain people are going to approach anything that he's doing with a level of toxicity because again they're upset with the way things played out, right? And that's just what it is, right?
They played out the way they played out. I'm just saying one person's mud turned out to be categorically false. One's the other person's mud, we can make a circumstantial case for. That's all I'm saying, right? So
Oh
uh,
man.
that's all I'm saying. So I actually, after reading the interview, I read the interview 3 times because
Yeah.
again, I'm not a fucking dick, and I like to digest things and think about it before I get on the internet and just start telling people that the interview is trash and this is a trash move by Kenny and la 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 la. So you know what I mean? And this is a very Kendrick positive podcast. And so, I know we're going to sound like, oh, okay, we just came on tonight to shoot Kendricks and Bell. I'm just asking, if we're going to have a critique of the interview, I need the critiques to be a bit more. Uh, I need the critiques to be thought out and constructive criticism on why you. If you just didn't like it because you don't like Kendrick, then that's fine. That's also fine. Like, I'm okay with that. I like this move. I thought it was
Yeah.
a pussy move. I don't like Kendrick. I think he's okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you claim to like hip hop and you can't see the value of Kendrick representing hip hop in this way,
Hmm.
okay. So if hip hop can only be on a messy ass platform, then we're gonna keep putting out, we're gonna keep putting out this bullshit, right? Like, so
Well,
good luck
and
to you.
we gotta we gotta hold everyone and each other accountable for highlighting these outlets, which are content creators
Hmm.
and media heads, as if they are journalists, because at the end of the day, they're not, right? Uh, Academics calling himself the best journalist in hip hop right now, like that's not it. This just
Categorically
ain't it,
false.
man. This just ain't it.
Categorically false. You are not a journalist.
No, no, not at all. And it's just there's a skill that you have to acquire to be a journalist,
That's
and
some training.
I don't know if being involved in the mess takes you like disqualifies you from being able to be a
It
journalist.
100% disqualifies you. You're supposed to be telling the story, not a part of the story, right?
Right.
So
So
that's journalism, and academics fails on that every time he goes to report on something because it's always told from his
right.
lens and not just the lens of I'm trying to tell this story.
Yeah.
Um, so shout out to Kendrick. Shout out to Harper's Bazaar. Shout out to SZA. I mean,
Yeah.
I thought she did an okay interview. It was her first one. I appreciate Kendrick,
Yeah.
giving his label mate and his friend and co-collaborator and all of the things that SZA is for Kendrick. I appreciate them doing that.
Right.
Um, and I'll say it like this as well, because again, we know Chromacopia is coming out next week.
Mhm.
Pre-ordered the vinyl, by the way, should be here on Monday.
Hey, let's go.
So it should be here on Monday. I'm excited to listen to that on vinyl.
Nice.
Um, and so that's coming out. So I appreciate Kendrick not putting out a messy ass interview, fucking up Tyler's rollout.
Yeah.
Absol's coming out on November 8th. So, I can appreciate again him not trying to be all in the limelight while somebody I think he's friends with and cares about is also trying to roll out an album. Right.
Yeah.
So you know, I think it was a classy move to be like, hey, I'm gonna go do this thing in Harper's Bazaar. Women are going to see this. Whoever is checking out Harper's Bazaar is going to see this, and maybe you niggas could get just a tiny little bit of class and go fucking check out Harper's Bazaar yourself. I don't know, just throwing it out.
Oh,
So, but to that end, Ab Soul also did an interview, which I thought was super dope with DJ Head.
hey, let's go.
Um, that was a good to tell. I'm gonna let you rock on that one because the Kendrick interview was mine to rock with. I enjoyed
Yeah.
the interview. How did you feel about the interview?
So Absol interview with DJ Head, and his co-host, who I didn't catch the name of, unfortunately. But shout outs to them.
Gina something. Gina. I'm not gonna
I'm not
remember.
even going. I'll put the name right here.
Yeah.
shout, shout outs to them. I'll put their
Shout out
image
to
and
her. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and the name of the platform and everything. But again, so to the point you were making with Kendrick about if he would have gone to DJ Head, it would have felt like a home game. Okay, well this was a home game for Absol, but it
Yeah.
felt great. It felt great for it to be a home game, right? So one of the things that you get to have when an artist goes and does an interview with somebody that they're not only do they know, but they know very well. Some they're from the same place. They're from Carson, right?
Hmm.
They're legit friends. They legit coming up together and everything, right? So, with that being said, the conversation that's had is so much more genuine and authentic, and you get to see a side of Absol that maybe you wouldn't get to see um, on a different platform. On a If he were to do radio, you probably wouldn't have gotten this on Breakfast Club in the same way.
Right.
Get to
Definitely.
see this side of Absol and get that insight, just get that insight to who he is. It's not the first time I've listened to an Absol interview, but it was probably the best one I've ever heard, right? Because it felt so like you were a fly on the wall of like a genuine conversation between friends, right? Just being able to see his personality come through in different ways, right? Every artist is going to present a certain way, right? And it's like I got my image to hold up, right?
Hmm.
But then you get to see people step out of that and for who they really are, and so you can really respect the artist. And then you see an interview like this, and you're like, you know what? I really respect the person as well. I really fuck with the person as well.
You know, um, I wanna click in on something that you just said right now, and that's the person's image. The thing that I'm starting to fill out, we just talked about Kendrick and his image. I think
Yeah,
he has a pretty good image,
yeah,
but I also think that's Kendrick. I don't think Kendrick is like being somebody. I think we're just getting Kendrick Lamar. This nigga doesn't like talking to everybody, right? And when I watched the
mm,
Absol interview, I'm like, Absol doesn't need an image. You just getting Absol, and either you fuck with it or you don't fuck with it, right? Like, and
mhm,
I really enjoyed that because I felt like I learned a lot about Ab, and I'm not gonna sit here and act like I've been consuming Absol's music since he been signed,
yeah,
right? I came to Absol after I started listening to Kendrick and Schoolboy, and then I was
mhm,
like, oh, let me check out who else is on TDE. And then I started listening to Absol and went back to check out his projects. But so, and I've become a big fan, and Herbert like made me a gigantic fan of Absol, right?
yeah,
Like I'm all the way in on Absol from that Herbert project. And you know how I feel about his upcoming project. We talked about that,
yeah,
last week.
yeah,
So being able to see him, I didn't know that he was legally blind. I didn't know that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
man.
I was like, oh shit, that's crazy. you know. Shout out to my man, you know.
Yeah.
I also didn't know that he like bang bang. You know, I thought maybe he was affiliated. I didn't know like
Right.
he bangs the set. So I was like, oh, okay. This it makes sense to me. Like I'm never surprised when I hear people from LA like actually banging the set, obviously.
Right.
But I'm like, oh, okay, cool. You know, you kind of it helps me ground and understand, like, okay, I kind of understand
Hmm.
this person now a little different, a little better.
Yeah.
Just from people in my family, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh, okay,
Right.
I could fuck with Absol because I know what he's about.
Right.
Um, so this was a really really good interview for me, and I was like, hell yeah! Shout out to DJ Head and um, yeah, we gotta find this girl's name so we could stop, so we could
I
be
know, man. I don't want
very
to be
proper.
disrespecting like this, man.
I feel
Come
very
on.
disrespectful. We apologize. We're gonna get this shit together, but
Find the name
uh,
right now. Find
yeah,
the name right
yeah.
now. I
Let me
can't
do
do
that
this.
shit right now, right?
Oh man.
The
Uh,
show is called Effective Immediately. It's on
effective.
Sirius XM.
Okay. Okay.
Um, the
So it's a satellite radio
uh,
show.
it's yeah,
Satellite radio. Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Let me
Let's go,
see. Let
DJ
me
Head.
see. That's what I'm saying. DJ Head. Gina
Yeah, you doing
Views.
all?
Gina
Gina Views.
Views.
Okay.
Gina
Shout out
Views.
Gina Views.
Shout out Gina Views. We won't forget it, and apologies for the disrespect. So
I know.
that's why we were actually saying the name of y'all shit on the show because y'all ain't pay us to say shit. So go
One
check
time,
out
one time only. But
one
shout out to you
time
guys.
only. That's to apologize for the disrespect.
Oh shit.
But yeah, Gina Views and DJ Head gave a really really great interview of Absol, who enlightened us about his feelings on J Cole and a lot of shit. Like it was a dope interview.
No, definitely. And even getting into that aspect of, even the way they transitioned into it didn't feel like phony or corny at all. Again,
Yeah,
because you're having a conversation with your friend. It's like if we're having a conversation. It's like, all right, well, like we know how to talk to each other to where it's like not like a weird thing to bring up.
right.
So that's how it felt to bring it up. And Absol approached it the way I just knowing Absol a little bit, at least I kind of assumed he would approach it, which he kept it real to him, and it was very much just like um, it's like how did you feel about being on Pi, which was on the album where he put the 7 minute drill, then he took it back and everything, and Absol kept it very cordial, very real to himself, and he was like, I'm like that's my friend, like my real ass friend, like he checks in on me. He cares about me. Like we fuck with each other. Like he's done a lot for me. I appreciate that. Like I fuck with him like on a personal level, right? And
Hmm.
so for me, it was nice to see things in a scope of reality again because whenever anything that's just uh, even somewhat connected to the beef, right?
Mm.
Or
Even
somewhat affiliated
tangentially,
to it. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's like it has to be this or that. It has to be like
Yeah,
okay, they
either
fuck
it's
with
beef
Drake,
or not.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's beef or it's not beef, right? That kind of thing. And in reality, uh, yeah, some of these people are really actually do have relationships with each other, um, and a lot of times we hear rappers say like that's my homie, and it's not even close to that. Like they do not fuck with each other, they do not know each other, right? But I take Absol on his word because he presents very authentic, very genuine. And
hmm,
if he says that to me, I believe it, and that's what I got from that. And it just reminded me that like it got me back to reality. Not that I was so out of reality with it, but
yeah.
it very much was refreshing to hear it just from a realistic point of view. Because again, this felt like you were a fly on the wall for a conversation they're having, just kicking it, right?
It was refreshing to hear the authenticity. Um, and let's get one thing clear. Like when it came to the convo we were having around J Cole and needing to choose a side, it's because the sides were Kendrick and Drake, not like Kendrick and Absol or Kendrick and whoever Future or
Mhm.
whoever else Cole claims to be friends with, right?
Right.
And that's a dicey spot to be in because these are two people who, at least outwardly in the beef, have told the world they do not fuck with each other anymore,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So in those terms, yeah, you got to choose a side because you if you fuck with one, then you ain't fucking with the other on their choice potentially. We don't know. We don't talk to any of these niggas, right?
Right.
But getting back to the Absol situation, right? I have no reason to believe him and J. Cole are not friends. I had a homie when Squeeze First 2 came out. Uh
Hmm.
he was like, "Hey, is that first verse a shot at J. Cole?" And I read the first verse lyrics and I'm like, I don't think so. I don't know what the fuck. Why would Absol be shooting at J. Cole? Like, the fuck did J. Cole do, right? And he was like, "Oh, it was because the friction between Kendrick and it." I'm like, "Oh, what the fuck that got to do with that? This shit don't have that was between Drake and Kendrick. That have shit to do
Right.
with." Like, I'm the kind of person that I'm like, the relationship I have with you don't have shit to do with the relationship I got with old boy until
It's
you
the
put me in a position that
Yeah.
is bad and I gotta pick.
It's the degree of separation, right? It's the
Right.
fact that I can, I would label Mace with Kendrick for everything that we know about them. They seem to be very close.
Yeah.
TDE presents as being a very close, tight knit kind of family type vibe.
Yeah.
So I'll take that at face value too. And yes, but again, there's separation there, and it's like I can also be like, I've done my own thing over here. I've been to the Dreamville sessions. We've been on songs together. We have a working relationship, and on top of that, I'm
And it
mentioning
sounds
that we
like
have
we
a
had a
friendship.
personal relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, all right, these two things, like I'm in the middle over here, but like there's no issue there, right? And
And
again, go
and
ahead.
for all, yeah, I was gonna say, and for all intent and purpose, J. Cole and Kendrick had a really great relationship for all we knew, right?
Right.
Until 7 minute drill, really. That's when we were like, "Oh, okay, you got smoke for Kendrick," right? So we didn't that wasn't really felt until then. I don't think even first person shooter made us feel like Cole and Kendrick weren't fucking with each other,
Right. Right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it was a dope interview. What a good interview. What
It
a
really
good
was.
journalistic interview. You know what I'm
Hey.
saying? So, but yeah,
Well, I mean, that's the thing, though. That's I guess even that. I mean, even that isn't journalism, though. It's just
yeah,
it's we're
yeah, it's just an
vibing,
interview. Yeah,
and the platform is closer to journalism because it's radio, and the platform is presented in a way where,
it's way
okay,
more
but we're
formal.
having a real ass conversation, right? There's not going to be like some random shit popping up and fucking like all this random shit that you see on streams. It's going to be a bit more formal, like you said, but at the end of the day, it's like we're still just having a conversation, kind of like a podcast, and kind of just like us just kind of chopping it up. At least it presents more casual. It's closer to journalism, but it's still not like that's still not like specifically
DJ
journalism.
Head is not a journalist. Let's be like, we're not out here claiming DJ Head's a journalist. Gina
Yeah.
Views, I don't know her background. I'm gonna go look her up so I can stop disrespecting her.
every
Um,
time, every
you know what
time.
I'm saying? So Gina Views, it doesn't strike me as a journalist. But that doesn't mean
Yeah.
she's not a good interviewer, and that doesn't mean DJ Head's not a good interviewer.
Yeah.
And like you said, this interview felt really good because it was just two homies talking. They were able to talk about things in the context of music and not in the
Mhm.
context of drama, which I think was very refreshing because it doesn't matter where we're getting news right now, even if it's news about real life, right? Like, I'm trying to watch CNBC and see about some stocks, and they're telling me about it in the context of the election, and I'm like, for fuck's sake, who's up and who's down? God damn it, that's really what I came here for, and I
Yeah,
think that
that's how
that's what we're missing.
that's how it was with the with any all the beef talk. Ayo,
Yeah,
pause. Uh,
yeah, you're getting wild out here, bro.
it
You're
was like
like,
no matter what platform you went on, somebody was gonna ask you, okay, Kendrick or Drake,
yeah,
Kendrick or
yeah, yeah,
Drake,
yeah,
right?
yeah. It
I
happened
can't see
everywhere.
what
Yeah, for sure. Every rapper.
so it's just like, bro, maybe it is just because something was in the air this year, election year.
America's a little tight right now with this election. I don't know if we all want to admit it, but it's got us all a little anxious. Like, our shoulders are
Yeah,
way up. We may be like, I don't fuck with politics, but our shoulders are still way up. And I think it's
for
just a
real.
little angst about what's going on in the world and with music. And like, I actually appreciate that being able to watch this Absol interview made me feel like I could escape for a little while and just chill,
Yeah.
right? And being from LA, understanding how LA move a little bit, I was just like, this is cool, right? My auntie lives in Carson. My cousins live in Carson. Like I'm like, this is cool. I understand these two
Right.
um, really well. So it was
Right.
dope. It was dope. It was
Hey
dope.
man.
And shout out to Kendrick. Shout out to Harper's
Shout
Bazaar.
out.
And to all you niggas out there who just had hate in your heart. Y'all just was coming.
Just
Get it
salty, bro. I
together.
don't know what to
Cause
say. Just salty.
hey, there's a lot of platforms that are always lecturing their fan base, their viewers about doing knowledge and coming correct and all the other
Yeah.
things. And I feel like on this particular issue, they acted like fans and didn't act
Oh, for sure.
like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They didn't act
No,
like
definitely.
consumers of good hip hop content is what I'll say it that way.
Uh, People don't know how to. People don't even know how to not like navigate as a fan through whatever they they
Yeah.
receive. Right? It's like
Yeah.
maybe at some point Drake will do something where we would look at it and be like, all right, well, maybe that was a good choice.
If
Might
if
be a
Drake
while if he could
if
just go
Drake
sit down.
if he goes sit down for 2 fucking seconds and get off of Instagram and stop, being weird for just a little while, like I think it'll be all right. And I'm gonna come out right now and say this: if Drake drops a really good project, I'm going to come out and say it's good.
If that
But
party album that he's gonna do,
if
if
that,
they put out a good album,
I'm
what type
gonna say it's
of
good.
like,
We'll
it's
talk
good.
about it. It's good. I think that's Drake's lane anyway. Stay over there, like you know what I mean. So
I am to assume it'll be good. You know what I mean? Like I'm assuming that it'll
I
be like,
I do not assume that, but I but I would
oh
like it
come
to be.
on, see look at that, see look at
I
that.
would I
That's what
I would like it to be good. I'm not assuming it's gonna be good.
it'll be
Because I mean,
good. It'll be good.
everything the boy is dropping is flopping.
Yeah, but like he's gonna do his best to just lean on somebody else for some success
All right,
and
so
party.
party
You're
might,
up.
yeah. All right, I think
Yeah,
I think I think like I said, J Cole go sit down, Drake go sit down. Let TDE had a moment, let Kendrick had a moment, let the West shine for a little while, and everything's gonna be all right. We gonna do the interviews the way we do them over here on the West Coast. We gonna move the way we move over here on the West Coast.
there you go.
And either you fuck with that or you not like us. That's how I'll say that.
All right,
Mm.
nice.
This is gonna be Drake's next album. It's gonna be called Duck Lips.
Douglas. Oh, that's nasty. That's nasty.